Trump talked on the tarmac trying to play tough guy in his army hat. Don't care, 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 don't care. Oh, here we go.
The ones that said it, and we actually spent 16-point-something minutes on the phone, and I told him he's got to get his act together because you're going to have some bad times in Los Angeles if he...
Oh, this is him saying he made a phone call with Gavin Newsom at the beginning of the riots, and he didn't. He called after he had already deployed them.
We had a pleasant conversation. The proof was from the phone company. It was from the phone company. So I spoke to him at a certain time. I'm sure you all saw it.
We did. It was 4 days after you said you had spoken to him.
Well, why would you ask me that question if you saw it? You know, I mean, he asked...
Because you're an idiot.
He asked me a question, and then he says, yeah, I saw that you spoke to him. Yeah, I spoke to him for over 16 minutes. I spoke to him for over 16 minutes, and I told him to get his act together, but he hasn't been able to do that. I mean, the man... really, we could have a great, you know, we have an Olympics coming up. We have to put the right foot forward. We have to do a job. We have a lot of people all over the world watching Los Angeles.
Yeah, the audio is, by the way, the audio on this is mono. I don't know why.
We've got the Olympics, and we have this guy allowing this to happen. Let me tell you, when you watch these agitators break up concrete and hand it out to people as they stood on line to get it, these have to be paid troublemakers.
I agree. I think your people are paying them. I think like everybody around Stephen Miller is going, ease up on that.
You appear to say that the governor and the mayor paid them. Do you believe that the governor and the mayor paid the agitators?
No, I don't say the governor and the mayor. I said somebody's paying them, I think. And if they're not, they're just troublemakers. What can I tell you?
Great. Okay, if they're not, then shut the fuck up, I guess.
But I believe somebody's paying them. I mean, I've never seen somebody with a...
Also, can I just say, who gives a shit what you believe? If you're an official of the government or you're in any position of power, I got to tell you, I'm fucking over what these assholes believe. I want to see the evidence or shut the hell up. I can say I believe. You can say you believe because we don't have access to every piece of data that's available to the president of the United States or the AG of the fucking country or the head of the FBI. We don't have access to all that stuff. So at a certain point, we run up against abutment of what we can prove based on the shit that is available to us, right? And he doesn't have to do that. He's got access to all this information.
Big hammer, so professional. Now they took the bricks away from them. So they say, how do we get in? The military did. How do we get in and what do we do? They said, I have an idea. Let's break up the concrete. And that's even better than bricks. And that's what happened.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Honestly. Sorry. Uh-oh. Oh my God. Why would... Oh, is it the catheter that he's wearing that's... Oh. He's got pee-pee problems, right. What happened? Are we okay?
The kidney has a very special place in the heart.
That is true. That is true. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. Meanwhile, what I was trying to do...
Here I am like an idiot.
Yeah. So...
Witnessed an amazing spectacle, a flex on our military. What impressed you the most?
Oh, that's Brian Glenn asking him a question.
I think the total love for the military. I mean, I was with the generals. They're explaining the different maneuvers. And the love they have for the Army and the military, it's beautiful. They're really great people. And I've never seen anything quite like that. I don't think any other president has either. You know, they really put on a good show. I asked them, did you do that
show?
for Biden? They said no, they didn't do it for Biden. I wonder why.
Because he didn't ask for it? Because he's not an egomaniacal sociopath?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I know this. As long as we have the military there, the protests won't mean anything. Last night, if we weren't there, they would have burned down the city.
No, they would not have.
But they did not a lot of damage other than they broke up a lot of concrete looking for weapons. You know, those are weapons.
Yes, hidden in the concrete. They've got this great thing. You know how you smuggle a file into prison in a cake? They just smuggle weapons in concrete blocks, you know, for ease of transport.
If that hits somebody in the head, the person's dead. You know that, right?
Are you planning?
No, not really.
Force will be met with the protest.
Oh, the military will be very heavy force. I'm very proud to tell you that. They might as well turn around. They're wasting their time. Some of them will end up in jail for a long period of time. They use weapons. That concrete is a weapon, a dangerous weapon. Worse than a brick, heavier than a brick.
Yeah, I mean, you can't even start. Don't get me started on fucking bricks at this point. That's why they carry the soup, right?
Soup. And they
Soup.
throw the cans of soup. That's
Hold on. Is the, yeah.
big bags of soup. And they lay it on the ground, and the anarchists take it, and they start throwing it at our cops, at our police. And they start throwing it at our cops, at our police. And when they get caught, they say, no, this is just soup for my family.
Yeah.
And they were dropping it off bridges and throwing it at soldiers and police. They're not doing that. You know, I went in my first term, I waited for governors to call in the military, and they didn't want to do it. And I watched Minneapolis and other places burn for a long time. And I said, when are you going to call? When are you going to call? And I said, if I ever do this again, if they're not responsive at the beginning, not at the end. You know, I called in the military in Minneapolis, but it was 7 days. I waited for this guy, the same guy that ran for vice president, who's a very dumb person. He's a low IQ individual, like many Democrats are. But
Again, the Minneapolis riots stopped because George Floyd's brother spoke out, and they ended that night.
I waited for him to call him in. I kept waiting. I'd call him every day and say, when are you calling him? And finally I called him because I'm not going to wait. They were destroying the city. The whole city was burning down.
No, it was not. It's like a 2-block area, you weirdo.
Horrible. Okay.
The whole city was burning down.
Hearing for Thursday from Gavin Newsom's lawsuit. Do you think your administration will be successful Thursday for the hearing?
Well, even Senator Fetterman said very strongly that this is horrible what they're doing and that the Democrats are making a big mistake by not talking about it. And I agree with that. I think this is in a league with, and maybe even worse in a true sense, what they're doing is now worse than men playing in women's sports. I think that's a ridiculous thing. Open borders. You take a look at open borders.
Okay, again, this is just like brain fart.
Open borders is what caused it. Many of these people, many of them, not all of them, I guess, but many of them came through the Joe Biden stupid open borders.
No, they didn't, or you'd just be able to get more of them. Again, we've talked about this. The numbers aren't anywhere near what he says.
Really sad to watch. It's very sad to watch this being our country. Now, with our national
Yeah, I agree. With you as the president, yeah, it's very sad.
Guard and our, fairly low number of Marines, they had no chance. And if you look, they were a little bit tougher than the police. Did you notice that?
Quality production there from Forbes Breaking
Police
News.
are trained not to do it. They're really trained. They're under tremendous political constraint. They're great police. I know the police in LA.
Not political constraint, legal.
I know the force. They're very good, but they're not allowed to do their thing. They're just not allowed. They're restricted by...
the law.
Radical left politicians who are pretty shameful.
As Commander-in-Chief, sir, what rules of engagement do you want for the military? What limitations?
A very simple rule of engagement. If they're dangerous, if they're throwing concrete or bricks, if they're spitting in the face of the police or whoever's in front of them, if they're punching people, if they're doing all of the things that you see.
Yeah, the stuff that the police are already taking care of.
For the last 3 nights, that I would say is engagement. We need to keep our city straight. I want to save Los Angeles. And
from itself.
Newsom is
And John Boyd.
totally incompetent. He's not going to do it. Look at the fires he had. He had fires where half the city, it seemed, burned down. Well,
Well, I mean, then that's good because the rioters only have half a city to destroy. So
25,000 houses, all because he wouldn't take water. I released the water from the Pacific Northwest,
yes, into the Central Valley.
and it came down millions of gallons a day. And it's right there right now. They'd like to send it back.
They'd like to send it back. The farmers would, because you turned their fields into saltwater pits.
There's something wrong with these people. All I want in terms of engagement, I just want to see peace. If there's peace, we get out. If there's even a chance of no peace, we stay there until there's peace. And
Even a chance of no peace. Great. So, gotcha. No peace, no justice. That's his argument. Ball's in your court.
a lot of people are being arrested. The rioters, or whatever you want to call them, they better know a lot of people are being arrested. They're going to...
Yeah, we know. Gavin Newsom told us. By the way, can we jump over to listen to what he just said? And then I think, let's see, is this, where are we? Oh my God, the people. Here we go. This is Gavin Newsom's take. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but hold on. Why is this audio out? Huh. Of course, Forbes would cut the audio on their own clip. Assholes. Okay, hold on. Newsom speech. Let's go to...
I want to say a few words about the events of the last few days. This past weekend, federal agents conducted large-scale workplace raids in and around Los Angeles. Those raids continue as I speak. California is no stranger to immigration enforcement, but instead of focusing on undocumented immigrants with serious criminal records and people with final deportation orders, a strategy both parties have long supported, this administration is pushing mass deportations, indiscriminately targeting hardworking immigrant families, regardless of their roots or risk.
I got to tell you, Trump, you better watch out. This motherfucker's going to Kennedy you. He's going to come around the outside, and you guys aren't prepped for it. You're not prepped for a telegenic, smart, well-spoken dude who's not afraid to push back on the slacktivists in his own party.
What's happening right now is very different than anything we've seen before. On Saturday morning, when federal agents jumped out of an unmarked van near a Home Depot parking lot, they began grabbing people, a deliberate targeting of a heavily Latino suburb. A similar scene played out when a clothing company was raided downtown. In other actions, a U.S. citizen...
Oops, sorry. The clothing company, the entire, and again, this is sweatshop conditions and all this stuff. This is stuff that a lot of us fought back against. Remember when Kathy Lee Gifford had clothes of hers made in a sweatshop and all that kind of stuff? Again, arrest the employers. These people are desperately, you're going to take a job in a fucking clothing warehouse, you're working your ass off. Arrest the employers if you're going to bother anybody, and give the other people around them a chance to at least, they may have made a mistake and gotten caught up in this, and they haven't had access to they might have wanted to go home, and they don't have access to their passport. They're just stuck.
9 months pregnant, was arrested. A 4-year-old girl taken. Families separated. Friends, quite literally, disappearing. In response, everyday Angelenos came out to exercise their constitutional right to free speech and assembly, to protest their government's actions. In turn, the state of California and the city and county of Los Angeles sent our police officers to help keep the peace. And with some exceptions, they were successful. Like many states, California is no stranger to this sort of unrest. We manage it
Especially when Trump is in power.
regularly and with our own law enforcement. But this, again, was different. What then ensued was the use of tear gas, flashbang grenades, rubber bullets, federal agents detaining people and undermining their due process rights. Donald Trump, without consulting California law enforcement leaders, commandeered 2,000 of our state's National Guard members to deploy on our streets, illegally and for no reason.
Yep.
This brazen abuse of power by a sitting president inflamed a combustible situation, putting our people, our officers, and even our National Guard at risk. That's when the downward spiral began. He doubled down on his dangerous National Guard deployment by fanning the flames even harder. And the president, he did it on purpose. As the news spread throughout LA, anxiety for family and friends ramped up. Protests started again. By night, several dozen lawbreakers became violent and destructive. They vandalized property. They tried to assault police officers. Many of you have seen the video clips of cars burning on cable news. If you incite violence, I want to be clear about this.
And by the way, this whole like, they don't care, Democrats want this and blah, blah, blah. Like, I've never seen a Democrat make a speech like this. I mean, this is a particularly good one, but I've seen a bunch of them make, conversations about the people who have a right to protest, what the grievance actually is. None of them like breeze over the violence that does occur. And he's probably more direct than anybody.
Incite violence or destroy our communities, you're going to be held to account. That kind of criminal.
Somebody just said, why didn't the National Guard refuse to comply and stay away? I'll tell you why. Because there was actual violence, and that's reason enough. If there was any potential that it would ratchet up, their job would be to stand there and guard that facility. The agitators themselves allowed for this escalation. It's not the legal violation, with California is one thing, but the National Guard members themselves wanting to guard the building makes total sense.
Behavior will not be tolerated. Full stop. Already more than 220 people have been arrested, and we're reviewing tapes to build additional cases, and people will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Again, thanks to our law enforcement officers and the majority of Angelenos who protested peacefully, the situation was winding down and was concentrated in just a few square blocks downtown.
Right.
But that's not what Donald Trump wanted. He again chose escalation. He chose more force. He chose theatrics over public safety. He federalized another 2,000 Guard members. He deployed more than 700 active U.S. Marines. These are the men and women trained for foreign combat, not domestic law enforcement. We honor their service. We honor their bravery. But we do not want our streets militarized by our own armed forces, not in LA, not in California, not anywhere. We're seeing unmarked cars in school parking lots, kids afraid of attending their own graduation. Trump is pulling a military dragnet all across Los Angeles, well beyond his stated intent to just go after violent and serious criminals. His agents are arresting dishwashers, gardeners, day laborers, and seamstresses. That's just weakness masquerading as strength.
That's probably the most direct shot at Trump's masculinity.
Donald Trump's government isn't protecting our communities. They're traumatizing our communities. And that seems to be the entire point.
Yep.
California will keep fighting. We'll keep fighting on behalf of our people, all of our people, including in the courts. Just yesterday, we filed a legal challenge to Donald Trump's reckless deployment of American troops to a major American city. Today, we sought an emergency court order to stop the use of the American military to engage in law enforcement activities across Los Angeles. If some of us could be snatched off the streets without a warrant, based only on suspicion or skin color, then none of us are safe. Authoritarian regimes begin by targeting people who are least able to defend themselves, but they do not stop there. Trump and his loyalists, they thrive on division because it allows them to take more power and exert even more control. And by the way, Trump, He's not opposed to lawlessness and violence as long as it serves him. What more evidence do we need than January 6th?
That's right.
I ask everyone, take time, reflect on this perilous moment. A president who wants to be bound by no law or constitution, perpetuating a unified assault on American traditions. This is a president who in just over 140 days has fired government watchdogs that could hold him accountable for corruption and fraud. He's declared a war on culture, on history, on science, on knowledge itself. Databases, quite literally, are vanishing. He's delegitimizing news organizations, and he's assaulting the First Amendment. And the threat of defunding them, at threat, he's dictating what universities themselves can teach. He's targeting law firms and the judicial branch that are the foundations of an orderly and civil society. He's calling for a sitting governor to be arrested for no other reason than to, in his own words, for getting elected. And we all know this Saturday, he's ordering our American heroes, the United States military, and forcing them to put on a vulgar display to celebrate his birthday, just as other failed dictators have done in the past. Look, this isn't just about protests here in Los Angeles. When Donald Trump sought blanket authority to commandeer the National Guard, he made that order apply to every state in this nation. This is about all of us. This is about you. California may be first, but it clearly will not end here. Other states are next. Democracy is next. Democracy is under assault before our eyes. This moment we have feared has arrived. He's taking a wrecking ball to our founding fathers' historic project. 3 co-equal branches of independent government. There are no longer any checks and balances. Congress is nowhere to be found. Speaker Johnson has completely abdicated that responsibility. The rule of law has increasingly been given way to the rule of Don. The founding fathers, they didn't live and die to see this kind of moment. It's time for all of us to stand up. Justice Brandeis, he said it best. In a democracy, the most important office, with all due respect, Mr. President, is not the presidency, and it's certainly not governor. The most important office is office of citizen. At this moment, we all need to stand up and be held to account, a higher level of accountability. If you exercise your First Amendment rights, please, please do it peacefully. I know many of you are feeling deep anxiety, stress, and fear, but I want you to know that you are the antidote to that fear and that anxiety. What Donald Trump wants most is your fealty, your silence to be complicit in this moment. Do not give in to him. I want to say a few.
Great ending, by the way. Just flat out, do not give in to him. That's that. Great speech. I think articulated incredibly well, fitting the direct moment, but also kind of the gathering moment that we've all been in and what we're actually seeing here. And again, this is 100% why I don't want to hear anybody yammering about imperfect Democrats of any sort, because the scale is so far out of whack. Yes, Gavin's definitely going to run, I think, in 2021. 2021. Listen to me, 2028. And I will definitely, be nice to him when I run against him. But he's a fantastic guy, and like I said, I marched with him for gay marriage from Harvey Milk Square in San Francisco to the Supreme Court building. I got to talk to him at length before and during that march, and then after, and I really appreciate the dude, I have to say. And he got so much shit when he broomed Kimberly Guilfoyle, and everybody was like, "What's he doing?" He's like dropping the one that brung him to the dance, and he's going after this newscaster lady that he was dating at the time. They've been together ever since, and we've all seen what Kimberly Guilfoyle was really like. So yeah, so dude's he's like he's firing on all cylinders right now. And I wanted to show everybody that. In the meantime, in comparison to this, whatever the fuck blather this nonsense is that we were watching on the tarmac. Right? And Newsom is a young dude, especially compared to him, certainly compared to Biden or anybody else. But he's not as young as some of the other people that will be running. So he's kind of in that perfect window. And I do think there's a chance that, he'll make a really strong push.